Hey, good morning, everyone. I've got 11:30, so it's time for our routine Thursday weekly briefing for Central North Carolina, and that covers the period today through next Wednesday, the 19th. I want to show real quick here, just kick things off, looking at the past week of rainfall. And you can see the county lines on there. There's no labels, I don't know why, but there you can see there most places have had anywhere from roughly a half an inch of rain to 2 to 3 inches over the last week. So most places have gotten a decent amount, except for our far southwest got a little less, and then areas from the Triad down to the southern portions of the Triangle and down east have had a little bit more, for anywhere from 2 to 4 inches. So we have had a fairly decently wet pattern in the last week over our area. And jumping ahead to the here and now, this is our fairly recent satellite image today, and it's a nice pretty picture. You can see some of the clouds across the southeast portion of Canada, extending down into the lower portions of the Great Lakes. That is associated with a frontal system that will be slowly approaching us over the next few days. Minimal cloudiness over us. We did have a little bit of stratus, low clouds this morning, a little bit of fog, but most of that's burnt off, and we're just faced with some puffy clouds here right now. Those are our latest temperatures at the top of the hour, and already in the mid 80s to lower 90s. So it's hot already out there, and the day has just started. So all right, so here's the upcoming weather pattern across the area for today and tonight. Again, our chances, we just got some isolated showers and storms expected today. We've been fairly dry the last couple of days. Haven't had a whole lot of rain, a few storms across southern sections, but not too much. But that's going to start changing that pattern. Starting this evening and into tonight, we're expecting some more scattered showers and storms, mainly across the northern and western portions of central North Carolina. But some of that could obviously ease into the eastern sections before dissipating late tonight. Our situation for tomorrow is looking like we've got increasing humidity, and that'll start tonight. Already feels very humid out there, but believe it or not, it's actually going to get a little bit worse, and that will help fuel some more numerous showers and storms for Friday through Sunday. Locally heavy rainfall is possible. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but going to be seeing some better coverage, better than the typical coverage of showers and storms here, mainly each afternoon through the evening hours, but not exclusively. We do have some nighttime rain and storm chances. So storm coverage looks like it will be getting a little bit lower from Monday and we get into the middle of next week, but scattered storms are going to be possible each day. Those days are going to be more like seasonable coverage, like what you'd expect on a typical summer day where you've got scattered activity. So the big story, though, over the next week is going to be the hot and humid weather, and that will start ramping up, like I said, tonight especially, and starting tomorrow, we've got multiple days of hot and humid conditions, and you know, this is the hottest part of the summer. So you know, we get this a lot. People say, well, you know, it's North Carolina, it's summertime, it's supposed to be this hot, it's the hottest part of the year, and that is absolutely true. But we're going to be talking about temperatures getting a few degrees above normal, and while just a few degrees above normal doesn't seem like a lot, when you add on the very humid conditions, we're going to be having dew points well into the 70s for most of this time. So that can really exacerbate heat illness. And what kind of heat illness we normally would see at this hottest time of year can be made even worse when you start ramping up the humidity and temperatures even a little bit. So that's going to be our big story, is we're going to start to see some folks getting a little bit affected by the heat. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit as well and go in a little more detail there. But just want to bring that up. That's going to be the biggest story, and we will probably need some heat advisories as we get into next week, early next week. Okay, here's our severe thunderstorm potential for the next few days. Nothing real crazy. We've got some pretty light winds if you go up into the atmosphere several thousand feet. we get some light winds, and that's going to mean that's not going to be good for fueling a lot of strong, severe storms. So we don't have anything major in the offing, but we do have that marginal, that level 1 threat for strong showers and storms, mainly to our north and west of our area today. Most of that activity is going to be focused on the Ohio Valley and into the northern mid-Atlantic. As we get into tomorrow, we do have a marginal risk into our area. So, you know, we'll be on the lookout for that. It doesn't look like anything too crazy, but, you know, a few pulse storms can produce straight line damaging winds of 60 miles an hour for sure. You know, that could be possible anywhere, most likely in the Northeast, but I would be on the lookout for any storms that happen to occur tomorrow. You could see some strong wind gusts in and around those storms. Don't even need to be right over your head. It could just be nearby, and you could get some pretty significant gusts. So just want to mention that, something to always keep an eye out for, especially get into this the summertime, people doing things outdoors. So something to keep an eye out for. But other than that, the severe weather threat is pretty low through the early part of next week. Okay, here's the excessive rainfall outlook from the Weather Prediction Center. And you see there not a whole lot today. Obviously, we've got some pretty low rain chances during the day today. As we get into tomorrow, we've got an increased chance for slow moving clusters of storms. You know, some of you have those days where it's just the storms kind of meander around and they collide with each other, and you have these clusters of storms. And if any of them happen to occur in particular over heavily urbanized areas or hilly areas where you've got a lot of runoff possible, that could increase the flooding threat. So widespread, it's not going to be a big flooding threat tomorrow, but any localized area, you get under that cluster of storms. We've all seen it where it happens over a city or kind of a hilly area or a little creek, and that kind of goes out of its bank. So this will be increasingly likely, not just tomorrow, but also as we get into the weekend as well, Saturday as well. And even a Sunday, I don't have the graphic up here, but Sunday also has a marginal risk of excessive rainfall, mainly in the eastern section. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. You know, spreading the usual safety rules of don't drive through flooded roadways. And if we've seen some of the coverage from the Northeast over the last few days in Vermont and parts of New York have really gotten inundated, roads washed away. Seeing that's not the kind of thing we're going to be expecting, but it's almost good to see the what it can do, the power of water. So definitely we want to send that message that flowing water across roads extremely powerful, and just to see what kind of damage it can do even on a local scale. So we'll be looking out for that. Again, not everybody is going to see heavy rain, but that's definitely a possibility. Okay. Taking a jump back to the entire Atlantic basin, we've got one system that they're kind of looking at right now. It's got a 60% chance of formation over the next few days, but it's going to be kind of meandering and drifting into the northern Atlantic, further into the North Atlantic. So that's going to limit further strengthening, and it's not going to affect North Carolina per se, or central North Carolina per se. Obviously, any tropical system that's out in the Atlantic does make one concerned about rip currents, and that is a huge thing this time of year. We've already lost a lot of folks on the North Carolina coast from rip currents, so that's always another thing we want to highlight is people going to the beach for the weekend. That's a big threat with just having a system out there with the swells that can increase the risk of some heavy surf and just some somewhat dangerous beach conditions. So it's always something we want to mention whenever there's a tropical system that's out in the Atlantic. But other than that, no effects on central North Carolina. And looking to next week, the heat looks like it will continue, unfortunately. We've got above normal temperatures favored and near to above normal precipitation. So it's basically looking at a pattern where we have a frontal system pretty much holding to our north and west. And what that means is it keeps us in the hot and muggies and keeps us in this warm, sticky air mass. And there's an increased chance where you've got some rain and shower and storm chances further the north and west with such a pattern, but definitely the heat will be the big story as we get into this week. And yeah, there are indications that even beyond this period next week, we might stay in this hot pattern as that ridge over the southwest spreads eastward. So another one to keep an eye out for. So as we head into next week. Okay, let's sum it up. Showers, isolated showers and storms today. We'll definitely see coverage increasing as we get into tomorrow with the increasing humidity, and as we head through the weekend, locally heavy rainfall possible, more numerous showers and storms, better coverage of showers and storms. As we get into Monday to Wednesday, still scattered storms each day, but coverage will be a little bit less than it will be this weekend. Hot and humid weather will continue to ramp up and will continue through the next week beyond this briefing period. So heat advisories may be needed, and we may be talking about successive days of heat advisories. As usual, the northwest sections, the triad's going to be a little on the, I don't even want to say cooler, the less hot side, and then down east from Highway 1 east. And down by the coast, that's where you're going to see your even higher heat indices, and they possibly might get into deep into the 100s to the point where they're approaching 110. We'll definitely take a look at that when we get a little bit closer and get a little more refinement of the forecast. But definitely, I would say there's a very good chance of a heat advisory at some portion of central North Carolina as we get into next week. And you can see the forecast down there. Saturday is the quote unquote coolest day with showers and storms likely, but definitely getting up in the low and mid 90s through most of next week. And the hazards and impacts, as I mentioned, the heat will continue to build through next week. Well, in addition to the isolated heavy rainfall, which I mentioned Friday and through the weekend. But yeah, as the heat continues to build, the heat illness risk will increase with successive days. That's been proven that it doesn't have to be, even if it's not record heat during the day, if you don't get that cooling at night, and people, especially vulnerable populations who don't have cooling systems, don't have AC, that can be very stressful on the human body. So something to watch out for and practice heat safety rules as we get through next week and as we're in the heat of the summer. So thank you very much for attending. As always, please contact us if you have any weather needs. We are here to serve you. And have a wonderful weekend and stay safe, everybody.